Maccabeestv, brothers and sisters, welcome to another edition. And I'm sitting here with my brother that, to me, doesn't need any introduction. One of the most laid-back brothers I know in Israel, man. You don't see him a lot on the cameras. He doesn't do the cameras a lot. But the brother is very influential behind the scenes. And we had the elder on before, where we had a discussion about the calendars and the confusion that's going on in the Israelite community amongst the calendars. A lot of Israelite brothers do not know how to put together the yearly calendar with the high holy days, and so there's a lot of confusions. A lot of brothers are winging it. A lot of brothers are following behind Amalek, etc. And this brother has that gift. And so what I want to do is I want to ask this brother some questions concerning the calendar. And he'll be back on the channel again. So what I want you brothers and sisters to do is I want you, if I don't ask the question that you have, you can drop something in the comment section. He'll see it. And then we'll take it from there. So start off by introducing yourself once again to the audience, Mathathyawa.
Mathathyawa, lawyer, Apostles New Jerusalem, Maccabeestv Alliance Council.
All praise to the Most High God. So all praises. So we're gonna go ahead and get right into it. Like I don't wanna hesitate. I want to get right into it. Right? There's a lot of confusion about the calendar in Israel. So let's talk about first fruits. A high holy day, the Passover just passed. There's a lot of confusion amongst the people about how to keep first fruits, when it should be kept, when do you start counting. So can you go into a little bit of the concept of the first fruits right after the Passover? How do we determine when the feast of first fruits is?
Well, when you go into the first fruit, you go into the holy days in general, but all the feast days. No, every feast day has a set date, month and date, except for the first fruit. And there's a reason behind that. Like the Passover is always going to be your first month, 14th day at sundown, which is the 15th day. You know, your dedication is always going to be in the 9th month, the 25th day, to the 10th month, either the 2nd or the 3rd day, depending on how many moons is in that 9th month, because people don't realize that it could rotate to the 2nd or the 3rd day, going into the 10th month. So those days that you see in the days that were established in during the Maccabees' time, because they were the Levite priests, they come from out of Phinehas's line, so they were able to establish those days. So when brothers talk about that, those days aren't valid, that's why Yahweh celebrated those days, because the sons of Aaron, they were the mouthpieces of the Most High. So they were able to establish those days, like the day of Simon, the day of Judas, the rededication of the altar, and that was made law, because when you check out their lineage, they come out of the Levitical priesthood. They understood their lineage. That's why you had Jonathan and Simon being called high priests, because they were from that lineage. Only the sons of Aaron were regarded the high priest as the Levites. Any other Levite, they weren't considered high priests, but they had their offices. Now going back to the first fruits, when you read it in Leviticus the 23rd chapter, that's the only feast day that doesn't have a definite date, because it's not a set in time. It's according to how you farm your barley and your wheat harvest. See what a lot of brothers tend to do, because men are saying, well, if they don't see it in the scriptures, they're not going to do it. And that's understandable. Men only celebrate the 50th day because they see that clearly in the book of Acts, the 2nd chapter. But when you go into all throughout the Old Testament, we celebrated the first day as a Sabbath, as well as the 50th day. Because what brothers don't realize, because that's a harvest feast. If you didn't give honor and praise to the Most High for blessing your crops on that first day, your crops on the 50th day wouldn't be blessed, because you had to give that first wave offering in order for the Most High to accept your sacrifices. So the first day represents the ending of the barley harvest, and the 50th day represents the end of the wheat harvest. How you calculate when you're supposed to start celebrating is based off how we farm as a nation together. Because when we get back into the kingdom, it's going to be no need for warriors. We're going back to our everyday livelihood, which was farming, cattlemen. That's that's what we did. We were farmers, we were shepherds.
That's why they say Israel was an agrarian society.
Exactly.
Because a lot of our high holy days and our feast days are based on bringing offerings to the priest, sacrifices, so forth and so on. So very agrarian, but go ahead.
So, you know, so with that being said, you know, you can't, in order for you to start counting the 50 days, you have to bring a sacrifice and a wave offering on that first day. So now, when you check out what the word abib means, like people will say it means to spring forth. It doesn't mean to spring forth. It means the ear of corn, meaning the ear of corn is sprung forth. That corn was talking about the barley. So now, if the ear of corn is just starting to show or spring or sprout, how could you give that offering to the Most High when it's not an earring yet? When it's an earring time, that means it's fully in bloom. But when something's just in the ear, that means it's just sprouting out. That's what it means. So there's no way possible that you can start counting 50 days after the first or the closing of the unleavened bread, because you didn't bring no sacrifice unto the Most High. You see?
So let me ask you a question. And with that, so why do so many brothers do it that way? What are they missing, or what are they basing it on that they do it right after the feast of unleavened bread?
They're just counting the 50. Some brothers are just counting the 50 days, and some brothers see when it says on the morrow after the Sabbath, they feel that it's talking about the unleavened bread, but it's not talking about the closing of the unleavened bread. It's talking about the morrow after a regular Sabbath, because when you're counting those 7 Sabbaths to be complete, it has to be 7 consecutive Sabbaths, and after that last Sabbath, you'll count the 50th day. The only way you can get that is how? It has to be at the morrow after the regular Sabbath in order to establish that 50th day. So in other words, say if a Passover falls on a Thursday, how are you going to count the morrow after the Sabbath? You would have to wait for the regular Sabbath. Now,
So let me just slow it down for the people. A lot of people are new, so got to dumb it down for dummies and even myself. In this area, man, I'm this is not my gift, so I have questions too. So now, when it says the morrow after the Sabbath, what you're saying to us is that, and I can see where, because I thought that also. I can see where brothers is thinking the morrow after the Sabbath is the unleavened bread. But what you're saying, the morrow after the Sabbath is not the feast of unleavened bread. The morrow after the Sabbath is the morrow after the regular Sabbath. Okay.
And it says count 7 Sabbaths to be completed.
Right.
Then at the 50th day.
Right.
So if your unleavened bread starts on a Wednesday, it's going to end the next Tuesday sundown.
Right.
That's not going to line up to be 50 days. You're not going to be able to count 7 consecutive Sabbaths to make a 50th day. So in other words, it has to be 7 times. And then after that 7th Sabbath, that night, 50th day. We'll go into it. But first I wanna establish something, like how when you read about the word, because everybody goes to the Zondervan, a bit. When you look at it, it says an ear of corn. It doesn't say to spring forth. The ear of corn springs forth out the ground, but it means an ear of corn. The corn that it's talking about is barley, right? So now, when that ear of corn presents itself, that just means it starts to sprout out. So you know that you got to start getting ready, because a couple of weeks later, you got to put that sickle to the corn and chop it down. But I'm going to just read the scripture quick, fast, right?
Yeah, I'm telling where you at if you don't
This
know.
is Exodus, the 9th chapter, and the 31st verse. Actually, before I even go there, I want to go to Exodus, the 32nd chapter.
And if I could say while the elders get the scriptures, y'all know what I always tell y'all, Israel. This is not for entertainment purposes. As he's going through these scriptures, brothers and sisters, write it down. Write it down, because you're gonna need this. These questions are gonna come up again and again and again. And y'all gonna keep asking me on the comment board. Write the scripture down. Go ahead.
Right, so this is Exodus, 34, verse 20, right? And it says, 6 days thou shalt work, but on the 7th day thou shalt rest. So we know that's talking about a regular Sabbath, right? So it says 6 days thou shalt work, on the 7th thou shalt rest. Now, when you read about it, it says, in the Hebrew it says Shabbat. So then it comes after that, it says, in earing time and in harvest time thou shalt rest. So it's letting you know when you read it in Hebrew, in earing time, it's going to be a Sabbath. And in harvest time, it's going to be a Sabbath also. So now what's that earing time? It goes back to the Zondervan Dictionary when it talks about the ear of corn. Abib means in the ear. It doesn't mean earring, meaning the barley is just starting to sprout out of the ground. It's not fully grown yet. It's just sprouting out of the ground. Right. It's showing itself. Right. You don't cut it and start counting the 50 days until earing time. That's what it goes when you go into Leviticus, the 16th chapter. When you go into Leviticus, the 16th chapter, that's how you determine when to start counting the days. And I'm going to read that quick fast, because I'm going to jump around back and forth a little bit, you know. So when you read Leviticus, the 16th chapter, and this is Leviticus 16, verse 9. It says, 7 weeks shalt thou number unto thee. Begin to number the 7 weeks from such time as thou beginnest to put the sickle to the corn. So now you know that earing time is talking about your barley, because that's the first thing that sprouts before the wheat sprouts. Right. So how you determine to start counting the 50 days is when your barley is not in the ear, it's when it's in earing time, it's ripe to cut and eat. Because when you read that in the Hebrew, it's talking about barley. And how we prove that? Before I go there, let me just go to Exodus, quick fast, the 9th chapter and the 31st verse, to prove what I'm saying about ear and earring. It says, and the flax and the barley was smitten, for the barley was in the ear. Meaning the barley was a bib. It just sprang forth. So it wasn't in earring, it was only in the ear. That's why, and when it came down during that time period, and it's still around the time of the Passover, so it's showing you the barley's not fully grown. So now when you read in Leviticus 23rd chapter, and like how we read in Deuteronomy, it has to be in the ear. In earing time, in order for you to cut it down and give that wave offering to the Most High, like it talks about in Leviticus the 23rd chapter. And this is just like a quick fast thing, because I got the whole breakdown on it. But how do we really know that it's talking about the barley harvest and it's talking about the wheat harvest? That's easy, because the scriptures, it gives everything to us. So when you go into the book of Ruth, you know, a lot of brothers, you know, they got to realize the book of Ruth it breaks down crystal clear and gives you the understanding on how to celebrate your first fruits. How we celebrated the barley harvest, which was earing time, thou shalt rest. And then it tells you in the 50th day, in harvest time, which is the wheat harvest, thou shalt rest. That's why when you look throughout the scriptures, the first fruits has many names, called the Feast of Weeks, the Holy Feast of 7 weeks, the Feast of First Fruits, the Feast of Wheat, and the Feast of Harvest. So we're going to go through several different names, because it's mainly dealing with crops. So I'm gonna go to the book of Ruth, right? And when you read in the book of Ruth, this is Ruth, the main part. Ruth, this is Ruth, the 2nd chapter. She wants to start at, so I don't want to go too deep into it.
And while the elder is looking for the verse, I want to say something. He dropped a jewel that went right over a lot of your heads. He dropped a jewel on y'all. Because you're going to hear people say that in ancient Egypt, around that time, there was no such thing as corn in ancient Egypt, because corn is not a native crop of Egypt. So what he explains to you is that the Bible, you have to understand, you cannot think about what's going on in the Bible with a modern mind. Corn is an umbrella crop. When we say corn, we're speaking about barley, we're speaking about wheat, we're speaking about beans. All those things are considered in the scriptures to be corn. It's not literally talking about corn. We know corn only grows in the Americas. Ain't nobody stupid.
See, people don't realize when it's talking about corn, right? Like you said, it's an umbrella. Nobody was eating corn on the cob.
Right.
But over there. when you read it, it translates into barley.
Right.
It's talking about barley. Now, barley is corn. Wheat is corn.
Right.
Rye is corn. They're all a family of corn.
Right.
See, the reason why people don't understand that because they're not farmers. They've never put their hand to the plow in their lives.
That's right.
The reason why I understand it because I have. So it's a big difference when you have and you haven't done anything. So because the first thing people think of, oh, corn on the cob. We all know corn on the cob doesn't grow over there, but they don't call their corn on the cob. They call it barley or they call it wheat because corn doesn't grow in their region. Right. So when they're talking about corn, they're talking about what? A different branch of corn, which is barley, wheat, rye. That's what they're talking about. So this is Ruth, the second chapter, right? And it says, so she kept the feast by the maidens of Boaz to glean unto the end of the barley harvest and of the wheat harvest, and dwelt with her mother-in-law. So now, like I said, men only celebrate the 50th day. But now, when you read the whole story, it's talking about the Feast of Weeks or first fruits of the harvest. Why was it important to celebrate the first day, which is the barley, as well as the 50th day? You can't calculate your 50 days unless you understand when to put the sickle to the corn. You have to be able to understand when and how to put the sickle to the corn. Because if you don't, how are you going to establish 50 days? You can't establish 50 days. It's impossible. So we knew back then. You see what I'm saying? And anybody that has that farming mentality, they'll know how it grows now. Now, I have a chart that I brought out before. It gives you the time frames around when barley is in earing time, not in the ear. You understand? Because men will show you a picture of barley and say, oh, see, it's in the ear, but it's not earing time. You understand?
So I have a question. I don't want to throw you off. Maybe, hopefully, it's like right along the same lines.
Go ahead.
Barley, is it in earing times at different times depending on where you are? Like, if you're in Jerusalem, is it one time? And the reason why I'm asking you that, just as a follow-up, would that then mean that we will be celebrating these high holidays on different days depending on where you are in the diaspora?
Right, exactly. Okay. And the reason why that is because when it's winter in one part of the continent, it's summer in other parts. That's just a fact. You see what I'm saying? But this is why we're in rehearsal. So we're rehearsing the righteous acts. But let's keep it real. The majority of the Israelites at today in this day and age, they're in North, Central, and South America. You understand? And it tells you in the land of your captivity is where you'll do these things. I'd say 80 to 90% of Israel is in North, Central, and South America. We have the same climate for the most part besides South America because of the way how things are down there. You understand what I'm saying? But you're supposed to celebrate it like that. That's how it's supposed to be.
Because I've heard brothers, and you've heard it too, so I'm addressing these things so you could dispel some of the stuff. We've heard brothers saying we need to keep the Passover the way they keep it in Jerusalem on the same calendar they have over there.
For what?
But that's why I'm asking you, because I'm saying if we're dealing with the earring and everything, that would be different over here than it would be over there. But you can elaborate on that.
And this is my thing, right? It's like this. Do I live there in that time zone, in that region? So if I don't live in that region, why do I have to follow their days? Because if I'm following their days, then guess what happens? See, people have to remember, the new moon is the beginning of our months. The beginning of our months. So if you're going to follow the way they celebrate the Passover over there, then you got to establish your new moons according to their time zone. Yeah. And they're 6 hours ahead of us. Why would I do new moons in a time zone that I'm not in? Right. It makes no sense. Like right now, they're 6 hours ahead of us. So why am I doing my feast days 6 hours ahead of time? When Every place on this earth sees the sun, moon, and the stars. You know, that's not going to make you more righteous by celebrating the way they celebrate, because the focal point is not even Jerusalem right now. Who can tell me the focal point is Jerusalem?
No, it's not even a standing temple.
Right, not even the standing temple. The land is defiled.
Right.
First of all, they changed the landmarks.
Right.
You got men trying to guess where the Holy Land's at.
Right.
They changed the landmarks, right? Not only did they change the landmarks, the same thing that's going on here in America is going on over there. Homosexuality, they got gay parades over there and everything. It's like Sodom and Gomorrah over there too, on a lower level. So my thing is this: if you believe in your Habashah, right, your focal point is going to be where you're at. And your focal point is going to be rehearsing the righteous acts where you're at, like the scriptures tells you, in all your dwellings in Leviticus 23rd chapter. Celebrate these feast days in all your dwellings. So now, I'm pretty sure when we were in all our captivities, we weren't celebrating them according to the calendar in Jerusalem. We just faced towards Jerusalem to pray like it was commanded when the temple was established. That's it. You know, but I'm not going to celebrate them on those days because that makes no sense. It really makes no sense. You understand? So, you know, again, but if brothers do it, that's cool. But you can't make that law. I mean, what scriptures to cut that up?
Right.
You know, if that's what brothers do, I'm fine with that. You know, that's as long as you do it. But that's not law. Because they don't understand the sun, the moon, the surface of the earth. And how, like even in America, the new moons on the East Coast on some days will be different from the West Coast based off the time zones. And that's a fact. Based off the time zones, because you have to understand sunrise, sunset, but you also have to understand when the moon comes in. You gotta understand these things. You know, everything is not going to be concrete in the scriptures. The surface is in the scriptures, but then you gotta search these things out. That's why I tell brothers, you know, the sun is out every day. The moon's out every day. Observe it as far as seeing how the circuits of the heavens work. That's how you get your understanding of the calendar. Sunrise, sunset. You have to understand all those things. You know, you can't be in a mind frame of a prophet. You have to be in a mind frame of a scientist, because we had scientists. If you're farming, they were scientists. You have to know how the earth cultivates and things like that.
You gotta test the soil.
You can't grow.
You can do this. Yeah.
And you can't, things you grow over here, you can't grow in other places.
Right.
And this is why when we did our first fruits, we didn't give our first fruits until we was in the land for 3 years. Why? Because the heathen, the Hamites, had our land occupied. Because they had our land occupied, it was defiled. The reason why it was defiled is simple. It was defiled because it's a known fact that the nations mingle seeds. It's a known fact. That's what they do. Because when you look at certain seeds that we deal with over here, like certain fruits that we did, or vegetation we deal with over here, whatever you want to call it, broccoli is not natural. That's what kale and cauliflower. Kale and cauliflower spice makes broccoli. You know, I ate that for years before I started to understand, like, this isn't normal. This isn't right. So you had to stop eating it. And it has no nutritional value, no matter what somebody says. It has no nutritional value. So you have to be a scientist to understand soil, what grows in this soil, what doesn't grow in that soil. Even in every state in this country, the soil is different. You know, then the climate is different. You have to understand weather, temperature, climate, because certain fruits won't grow in certain seasons. There's a reason why apples and pears and certain fruits can withstand that cold. That's why you can grow apples up north. You won't see apples being grown down south. But you won't be seeing oranges being grown up north. They're only grown in Cali and only grown in Florida because you need a certain type of weather. They can't be grown in Texas because why? No water there. They have drops down there. So you need a certain type of tropical environment. It's just that simple. So you have to be a scientist. You know, you have to, there's many facets to the Most High's realm. You understand? Many facets. You can have some brothers that are prophesies, teaches, this, that, the whole 9 yards, but some brothers have that whole package. You know, because that's what they desire. So, you know, but that's how you start counting the first fruits, you have to be able to give a barley offering.
And you know what's beautiful about what you're saying? And I want you to continue. If you follow this, just based on listening to what you're saying, and brothers are keenly paying attention, if you follow this the way he's breaking it down, right? You'll never have the problem of your Passover falling in March.
Right.
Like late February, early March. Like some camps, they gotta keep adding the intercalary month every year because the calculations are off to begin with, and they wind up having the Passover. It's like February something, you know what I mean? So go ahead.
And when brothers say, well, the 13th new moon isn't in the scriptures, it is in the scriptures.
Right.
Because it tells you your holy days must be in their proper season.
Right.
So then you just add an extra moon for the proper season. See, people they just want to see the number 13. You're not going to see the number 13. But if you understand a solar calendar and a lunar calendar, and yes, we did use both because we do not use lunar calendars to farm. We use a solar calendar because the solar calendar deals with the 4 seasons. The lunar calendar deals with the times of the year. Every nation dealt with both. They had an understanding of both. That's a fact. Even the Egyptians, they had 10 days a week, but then they would add extra days to make sure that it was in accordance to their solar calendar. But that's how they celebrated it. You see what I'm saying? They had 10-day weeks though. For a time period, then they lumped it in and whatever they did, it still came out based off their harvest seasons. Now, like with us, our months of our months of the year, we go by a lunar calendar, but we farm according to a solar calendar. You have to. Our feast days, we had to make sure it aligned up with a solar calendar. So you have to every 2 to 3 years add a 13th moon. You have to, because if you don't, then you'll have your Passover in the winter time. And I'm not trying to attack, man, because like I said, we're in rehearsal right now. But if I know last year you had a lot of men whose Passover was on the 19th of March. That's the last day of winter. That is not spring. That's the last day of winter.
And even if it was spring, nothing is airing or being
Right,
or in air the
Right.
first day of spring. That's no.
See, and that's the thing. So the thing is, 15 days after the moon, right?
Right.
You go 15 days in, nothing is in full bloom. It's just what they call in this country spring, meaning things are just springing forth. The trees have come out of that stage of hibernation, because I hate when people say, "Oh, the trees died." The trees don't die. That's hibernation, because they come back to life in the springtime, right?
Right.
They actually start budding like in March, in early March, because based off the weather, because of this whole global warming thing with all the emissions and everything, and that's real. That's why you have hotter summers and you have warmer winters. So this is why things aren't dying out like they used to. Why do you think all the ice caps in Antarctica and on the South Pole, they're not there anymore? They're not there anymore because of global warming. You know, with all the pollution that's defiling around the ozone layer. You know, so like I said, when you check it out, you know, you have to understand the solar and the lunar. You have to understand based on according to where you live at. You know, and that's how you have to set it up. Now, you know, if you have men that have congregations all over the world, it would just make sense to do it according to where their headquarters is at.
That's what we did when we was
That's what men do.
That's what we did when we was one nation. We established Jerusalem, and no matter where you were in the diaspora, everybody would come to Jerusalem 3 times a year. That's what we did, and we'll do that in the kingdom again.
But understand something. That's why for the main feast days, they have to be celebrated in Jerusalem.
Right.
For the main feast days, they have to be celebrated in Jerusalem. That's why we all came for those feast days.
Yep.
You understand? But now, when men were, and even notice during the New Testament, when men were coming up for those feast days, like how men came up in Acts the 2nd chapter, they came from all parts of the region.
Right.
All parts of the region. The reason why you don't really see them talking about the barley and the wheat harvest is simple. We were in captivity and the Romans occupied our land. So man didn't have it like that. We're being taxed like crazy. The decree that was given during the time of Alexander, long gone, not only to leave us alone and tax our land, because his sons and his sons' sons from his 4 generals, they defiled it and the Romans took it over. They oppressed us. So we was getting our land taken from us. So the focal point during the time of the disciples, which were apostles at that time, because their stewardship level raised to apostles once Christ left, they became teachers. Their focal point for the first fruits was to do what? Was to celebrate, bring brothers together, and that's where the Most High gave them that power on high. That's where they were given the Holy Spirit on that high level, to where they didn't need no man to teach them. You know, they were self-taught. And what it means by self-taught, anything they needed, they would just pray to the Father. He would give them the answer. That's what the Holy Spirit represented. That's why Paul said, lay hands on no man suddenly. It's not talking about fighting. That's talking about giving them that Holy Spirit. Because everybody wasn't worthy. And the reason why he was saying it, because men that rolled with him went off. Like Titus, Demas, you know, other brothers that was rolling with him. Only Luke, the apostle Luke, was still waiting for a minute. You know, and Luke wrote the whole book of Acts. So he was there from the time Yahushua died. That's why when you read the book of Luke and the ending of Luke, it picks up right where it leaves off at. So when Luke ended that in Luke, he just picked right up in Acts and was writing, and he wrote through the whole book of Acts. You understand? So you know, but the first fruits is, you know, is that they understood because they had crops and things like that, but not on that high level. And then the game plan changed. The game plan was to do what? Teach the kingdom of heaven. But now that we're coming back into the graces of Yahushua, we got to prepare ourselves mentally, because listen, we're not going to be going into the kingdom. Once the kingdom is established, your sword is going to be turned into what? Plowshares. So you're going to get back on that farm again. Every man's going to have that, quote unquote, 40 acres in a mule. You know, it's not going to be no reason for war anymore. Because the true king, the true ruler, the true leader is going to be established in this earth as the King of Kings, Hamashiach Yahushua. So all we're trying to do is just bring everybody back closer, you know, with these feast days and things like that. Because these Sabbaths and these feast days are your lifeline. They are lifeline to coming back to Yahushua. They're a very important part, and an integral part of knowing who you are. Integral part.
Right.
You know?
And we have to treat these high holy days the same way we treated Christmas, Easter, and everything else in the world. We have to really get into the essence of it. A lot of times we get the garments, we look good, we look fresh, whatever like that. We go to the high holy days, but really the essence, the way you're getting down into the essence of when we're supposed to keep it, why we're supposed to keep it, how we count the days. As you know, the majority of us as Israelites, we don't do that. We kind of just rely on what somebody, you know, we see one camp over there keeping it that day and everybody just jumps on the bandwagon. We have to get a lot more into, like, really immerse ourselves. That's the word I always use, immerse ourselves in our culture a lot more. I know you do that with the Hebrew. I know you do that with the high holy days and the calendar. And those are very, very important things. It's not all about the glitz and the glamour and cursing Esau out and getting the views on YouTube. Like, really immerse yourself in this culture, man.
Yeah, to immerse yourself in the culture, because you are the culture. You make the culture. You know, the disdain that I have today is, like I tell brothers, you know, some men just want to be the best teachers in all the wrong ways. When it's best to be the best brother.
Yep.
You know, it's best to be the best brother. The product that you put out on Facebook and YouTube, like I tell men, it sends you know, our words are heavy and powerful. So you always want to put out a righteous message, and a message we want to use this platform to establish righteousness, right, not to air Israelites' dirty laundry. Right. That's just silly, you know. So you know, men, that the content that men have to really elevate and upgrade their spirituality. And now they're talking about taking all that stuff, all crazy content. Yep. So now men are going to be forced to change their teachings. Yep. Meaning some men are going to be forced to be more mature in their teachings. Yep. Or else they're not going to be able to get their word out as they perceive it to the masses.
That's right.
You know, and it's bigger than us. It's about Yahushua, because Yahushua said, listen, you can raise up stones. That's a fact. We're not needed. Nobody should feel that they're needed. None of us are needed. We were called, but we're not needed. Because in the scripture says, many are called, but few were chosen. Because I can remember men that was called for years. Then where they disappeared.
One day the Most High took that Holy Spirit
Took
from
that
them.
Holy Spirit from them. That's why David prayed and said, listen, please don't take the Holy Spirit from when he sinned. You know, so these are things that men, like I said, as we come closer to every day we come closer to our redemption, these are things that, you know, you should want to get a head start on now, because that's what the wilderness is about.
Yeah.
The wilderness is about how to build a tent, how to start a fire, how to farm. Now, you know, you can't go to the grocery store. Walmart's not in the kingdom.
It's gonna be, yep.
You know, Walmart's not going to be in the kingdom. You know, you got to know how to do pottery, make bowls, do this, do that. You know, how do you make all natural products and this and the whole 9 yards? These are the things that are going to be established in the kingdom.
Hey, bro, that's why that generation in the wilderness got killed off, because they got comfortable. Egypt had everything.
Egypt had everything.
And America has everything.
And that's why
You could buy turkey in a can. You could buy turkey in a can, canned turkey, and I mean a whole turkey
for years.
Yeah, and so when we go in the wilderness, it's gonna be the same thing, man. Dudes is gonna get caught out there. They don't know nothing about farming, nothing about nothing.
But this is why I posed the question when we had our Passover service. Who told you was making it into the kingdom of heaven?
Right.
Who told you was gonna see your Yahushua? Because men got it in their minds like, yo, like they're gonna see the Messiah. Who told you? Listen, somebody got to die in Christ. Who said it was going to be you that lives in Christ?
Casualties in the wilderness.
It's going to be casualties in the wilderness. It's going to be casualties, you know, before the wilderness. You know, men got to come out of that arrogance like they got a slot. They know they slot. Nobody's slot is secure. Nope. You understand? Nobody's slot is secure. Especially when it comes to what we deal with. A lot of brothers comfortable.
Yeah, man.
You know, and you know, it's cool to attack Esau. But y'all, tell you something, Esau's a killer. He's bred to be a killer.
Right.
He is bred to kill.
Right.
You understand? He is bred to kill. So, you know, in order to really defeat your enemy, you have to understand your enemy. In order to understand your enemy, you gotta have that power of Yahushua.
That's right.
You gotta accept Yahushua first and foremost, because we don't have a relationship with the Most High. Like I tell folks, we don't got a relationship with the Most High. The only way we have a relationship with the Most High is through how much Yahushua shed in his blood. That's why you have to know the importance of that. You know, so, but in all this brings, you know, like I said, just building blocks to getting back to that kingdom of heaven. That's all.
It's a beautiful thing, man. And
Building blocks.
And brothers should be, and sisters that are watching, should be thankful that the Most High continues to reveal this truth to us, and the truth continues to elevate and grow, man. These are good things. When we find out new things, even if we may have been doing something wrong for a long time, you know, when we find out new things, we should give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High for revealing those things. The Bible says the Most High will do nothing but reveals his secrets to his servants, the prophets. So just look at yourself as a servant. If the Most High opens your eyes to new things, don't take it as a bad thing, man. Listen, as long as I've been around, I know my strengths, know my weaknesses, and this brother has a gift in the area that I didn't greatly study in. So I lean on him somewhat sometimes when it comes to the calendar things. Nothing wrong with that, man. We're a body. So I want to thank you. Oh, go ahead, continue. Man.
But the thing is with that, you know, see what people don't realize, the truth is in an evolving stage.
Right.
Back when we came up, we only celebrated the first day of the Passover and the Day of Atonement. That's it. That's it. Now, with those men, see, because men always try to, those guys were wicked, this, that. They weren't wicked. They didn't know. They didn't have to understand it back then. So you can't, you know, when men always talk about one West and this and that, them niggas was all, first of all, you weren't there. It's a reason why you weren't there. Because you wouldn't have made it.
Right.
You understand? That was a generation for men, not boys.
You have to do a whole show on that.
That wasn't no hole in hands.
That's right.
That was a military that was being built back then, you know, and it was needed. It was needed because them men were coming out of a generation where all people were dying for each other. That Black Power movement generation. Those men were from that generation. So we needed that back then. But for things they were ignorant to. They didn't have that understanding back then, and it wasn't for that time. Not until we split from one west did we start celebrating the new moon.
That's a fact.
And that's when I started getting up. I'm like, I gotta know about this. What's this? Then I started doing my research. Oh, so we gotta do all these feast days. Oh, okay. Oh, we gotta do the closing services that unleavened bread too. Oh, no, we gotta do that too. Oh, and we gotta do the first fruits. We gotta do what's that? The tabernacles. Purim. But then later on, when we did rededication of the altar, later on we got to do the day of Judas, the day of Simon. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm with that too.
Hey, it's just recently that brothers actually started going camping for
the
tabernacles, because that was just when we was coming up. There wasn't nobody doing that.
Nobody was there. Right, mom was doing that. So the truth has evolved because men started to want to embrace their culture more.
Brothers was eating lamb chops on the Passover.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? And listen, we didn't have to understand what leaven was. Brothers wasn't bringing that out.
Right.
I can remember me being in my first Passover. I'm like, okay, well, leaven. So they said I can't eat bread. Fine, I'm not eat bread. They eat corn muffins. I'm like, corn muffin. I don't understand what leaven is and all that stuff. They just said, don't eat bread. So I'm eating corn muffins like, oh, and I know I was getting laughed at by the spirit world. They're like, look at this guy, man, what he trying? So I ate corn muffins for a week. A year later, I found out corn muffins had leaven in it. I'm like, okay, let me understand what leaven is. So that's why now we got a whole list of stuff. As far as what you can eat and what you can't eat. But not only that, we have all the chemical breakdowns of what leaven is and how it forms. This is why you can't drink certain wines and liquors on a Passover. Or during that week of the unleavened bread. So the truth evolved. It started with them, but it evolves with us. It evolves with you. Like I always say, it's a brother in my camp who he came in on in Hebrew by watching a brother, Danyaahla from HODC. Always picking my brain for years. And other brothers who knew the Hebrew at our congregation. Now this brother speaks like 5 or 6 languages. He speaks every form of Hebrew, which is the Ashkenazi, the Sephardic, and the ancient Hebrew, fluently. You know what I'm saying? Brother, like Desire Razamov, he got a page. He does the Hebrew.
I got an interview
You understand? Yeah. He does that Hebrew. Yeah. He finally met the brother Danyaahla. Like, yo, I came to truth because of you. Everybody's not coming to prophesy.
Nope.
He came on that Hebrew.
Yep.
And that's why he's magnifying his office, because now I come to him. I go, send me say a prayer quick fast, King. Say off the top of his head. I'm kind of old now, you don't understand, but he said off the top of his head. So because the truth has evolved. Yep. We went from saying Hebrew words to now you got brothers reading a Tanakh with no English.
Right.
It's an evolution. So it's up to us, not only us, but the younger generation to push it even further, because like I tell brothers all the time, I came into this truth under the impression, based on what brothers saw, that we was getting out in the year 2000. 19 years after the year 2000, I'm still here. And I'm 48 years old. If we're here another 20 years, I'll be 68, close to my death. Who says Yahweh Shah is coming back within his next 20 years? Because if you're saying that, you're a liar. Don't tell a man what you see with your false visions. And I'm going to tell you why I say that, then we can close out. You understand what I'm saying? Because everybody says, oh, I see in another 2 years. How you see that? Yahweh Shah didn't see that.
Right.
Where'd you get that from?
Right.
Like, stop giving people false hope. The whole thing was this. Let me read the scripture quick fast, right? This is Acts. This is Acts. And Acts 1 verse 6. It says, when they therefore will come together, they asked of him, saying, Lord, will thou at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel? Because the disciples sincerely believed the kingdom was coming right then. That's why I said, you're going to do this now? Are you going to do this now? Right? This is the answer Yahweh Shah said to them, right? Verse 7. And he said unto them, it is not for you to know the times or the seasons which the Father hath put in his own power. So basically what he said was, it's not your job to teach when I'm coming back for my second return.
Right.
That's the Most High's job.
Right.
So you never saw the disciples saying what they thought, it's going to be 2 years. They just said, we're in the last days. And the last days began once Christ left. The countdown began then. So we're still in the last days. But they understood that at that point in time, you know what they understood? They weren't going to see Yahweh in their lifetime. They understood that. So now, how do you know you're going to see Yahweh in your lifetime? That's when you better get your faith up. A lot of men don't have faith. They got scriptures, but they don't have faith because they're scared of death.
Right.
They're scared of death, not knowing what's going to happen to them. Not knowing how that whole thing transpires. So we can't die in this kingdom. Who said that? And anybody telling you that what they see, that's a false prophet giving you false hope. That's just a fact. Because you know how many times I heard, oh yeah, we out of here now. After every war in the Middle East, we out of here now. Just teach Christ. That's all that counts. Because if you die in Christ, that's why the scripture says, the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. That doesn't mean that the young brothers coming in are going to take over. No, what that means is, when it says the first shall be last and the last shall be first, the ones that die in Christ, that you think are last, aren't they going to meet Christ first in the air?
Yep.
And then it says, and then we shall join with them.
Yep.
That's what that scripture means. You got to get that understanding, man. Got to get that understanding. That's what the first shall be last and the last shall be first. Meaning all those men that died in Christ that aren't here anymore, boom, when Christ comes back, they shall be first for the resurrection.
Yep. All praises to the Most High.
All praises.
Yeah, man, Sotawada, Mathath, it was good to have you back. We need to do a few more of these, man. We still gotta do our little chat about, you know what I'm saying, the 90s, back at the old school. We still gotta do our little chat about that. We're gonna get that in, man. You know what I'm saying? You know, a lot of brothers don't, you know, it seems like there's a certain thing where a lot of brothers don't like us talking about it because they weren't there. So they don't like us talking about it, you know what I'm saying, but we were there and we're gonna talk about it. That is our history. We are part of that history. And we're gonna talk about it. We don't care. We don't like it. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and end. Your any last words, King? You know, as a matter of fact, tell them how they could contact you, where they could reach you.
Okay, contact me on ANJ12 or ANJ144.com. Actually, what I'll do is the full breakdown of that first fruits. That was a little something, but that full breakdown I'll put on our website at ANJ12, ANJ144. The list of how we celebrate the new moons and feast days is up there also. Just check it out. You know, it's about to be rebuilt, put over, because all our video content we're gonna be putting up on our joint. We're not doing that Facebook, that YouTube. We're not doing all that stuff no more. All our joint, we're gonna build a site to if you want some good teaching, you want some, you know, good understanding, all that's going on our site. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, you don't see him in the street. But I'm in the street. We just don't need cameras. We're really into saving souls. You know what I'm saying? Right. We don't need cameras. Brothers don't pull out a camera, so what? We got souls to save in front of us. Right. You know.
And there's a million videos on YouTube, a million cameras. So everybody, and we're from an era where every camera didn't have a camera.
Listen.
Brothers don't know the history behind that. Right. Brothers think that, you know what I'm saying, you come into the camera era. We're gonna end it out, family. I know the videos. But brothers come into Israel in the camera era and think that that's the way it went. No, what brothers don't understand was brothers had to start taking cameras out because the police was constantly harassing camps, and also you had people that would come up and instigate fights and start with people, and then it would be our word against theirs. So the camera was a protective measure first, and then YouTube came along and it became something where you could post videos. But you're from the era where we didn't have them cameras. We just went out there and did it. And what I be trying to tell brothers is that if you still choose as a camp leader to operate your camp like that, ain't nothing wrong with it. Ain't no law that says you got to put every video up on YouTube. It's just not.
And see, we got YouTube pages.
Yeah.
You know, brothers say, why don't you put stuff out? You know, we'll do that again. But it's going on our side. It's going on our side because we had our old Chilling with Israel thing. They kept censoring that.
I remember that.
We started the movement with the Chilling with Israel thing. Me, the brother I designed, brother Danyaahla.
Yep.
We had that thing going at one time. Then he started hitting us with that violation because we was bringing out things about Hollywood and all that stuff.
Yep.
But, you know, but we building our site now to where, you know, you can go to our site and it's gonna be interactive. You know, that's what we gotta do. You got a website, put it on your website. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You don't need the white man.
Right.
Put it on your website. You can control that. Put money into it.
Right.
You gotta fund it. You gotta support it. You know? So All praise to the Most High Yahushua.
All right, brothers and sisters, man, Thawada for watching. Hopefully you got something out the video. Again, if you have any questions, just drop your questions in the comments. He will eventually see it, and maybe the next time we get together, we can go over some of your questions.
All right.
Shalom, family.